The conference room door slammed shut with a finality that echoed like a judge's gavel in an empty courtroom. Alex Sinclair stood there, arms crossed over his tailored suit, his perfectly coiffed hair catching the fluorescent lights like it was scripted for a boardroom thriller. "You're done here, Ethan," he said, his voice laced with that inherited confidence that came from generations of family money and zero actual sweat. Ethan Caldwell didn't flinch. He just sat there at the polished oak table, his fingers steepled over a stack of documents thicker than a city's phone book, his eyes steady behind wire-rimmed glasses. He'd seen this coming. Of course. Men like Alex always telegraphed their punches. But Ethan wasn't the type to dodge. He built his defenses in the fine print, where egos like Alex never bothered to look. It had started months earlier, in the gleaming skyscraper of Vanguard Capital in downtown Manhattan. The firm was on the cusp of the biggest merger in its history, a union with Apex Holdings that would create a financial behemoth worth billions. Alex, the golden boy heir apparent, had been groomed for this moment since he could say, "Trust fund." His father, the late Victor Sinclair, had built Vanguard from a scrappy investment house into a Wall Street powerhouse. But Alex? He treated it like a playground, showing up late to meetings with a Starbucks in hand and a smirk that said he owned the room before he even entered it. "Details are for drones," he'd quip, waving off reports as if they were junk mail. And Ethan? He was the drone in Alex's eyes, the quiet, meticulous chief legal strategist who'd been with Vanguard for over a decade, turning chaotic deals into ironclad fortresses. Ethan didn't seek the spotlight. He was the guy who worked through weekends while others golfed, crafting clauses that protected the firm from lawsuits, regulators, and even itself. His office was a fortress of organized chaos, walls lined with legal tomes, a single desk lamp illuminating yellow legal pads filled with his precise handwriting. No family photos, no trophies, just the work. People whispered about him in the break room. "Ethan's a ghost," they'd say. "Builds these legal mazes that could trap Houdini." But Alex never whispered. He barked. From the day he stepped into the interim CEO role after his father's passing, he saw Ethan as an obstacle, a relic of the old guard who insisted on due diligence when Alex wanted speed and spectacle. The merger with Apex was Ethan's masterpiece. For 20 months, he'd labored over it in silence, weaving together thousands of pages of agreements, contingencies, and safeguards. Apex wasn't just any partner. They were sharks in suits, with a board full of ex-regulators who demanded transparency and teeth in every term. Ethan delivered. He embedded layers of protection, escrow holds, compliance triggers, and one particular clause, buried in Appendix D, 9 under a sea of boilerplate about transitional asset harmonization. That was his quiet insurance policy. It wasn't flashy. It didn't scream trap. It simply stated that if a key architect of the merger was terminated without documented cause within the post-signature grace period, and any undisclosed family-linked asset transfers occurred shortly after, those assets would fall under temporary joint oversight by the merged entity's compliance board. In plain English, screw over the guy who built the deal. Try to shuffle your inheritance around in the shadows, and watch your empire get handcuffed. Alex never read it. Why would he? He skimmed the executive summary, slapped his signature on the dotted line during a champagne-fueled signing ceremony, and paraded around like he'd invented capitalism. "This is our moonshot," he'd boast to the press, flashing that $1 million smile. Ethan stood in the back of the room that day, nursing a club soda, watching as flashbulbs popped and handshakes sealed the deal. No one thanked him. No one even glanced his way. But that was fine. Ethan didn't build for applause. He built for inevitability. The tension simmered in the weeks leading up to the close. Alex started micromanaging, or what he called visionary oversight. He'd barge into strategy sessions, override Ethan's cautions with waves of his hand. We're not playing defense anymore, Ethan. Offense wins championships. One afternoon, in a heated call with Apex's legal team, Alex dismissed a risk assessment Ethan had flagged, a potential overlap in family trusts that could trigger IRS scrutiny. My family's holdings are off limits, Alex snapped. Handle it. Ethan nodded. But later that night, alone in his office with the city lights twinkling below, he double-checked Appendix D-9. It was still there, dormant, waiting for the right spark. The merger closed on a crisp autumn Friday. Headlines blared. Vanguard Apex mega-merger ushers in new era of finance. Alex hosted a lavish party at a rooftop venue overlooking Central Park, toasting to the future. Ethan skipped it, opting instead for a quiet dinner at his modest Brooklyn apartment, reviewing the final bound copies of the agreement. He lingered on D9, his finger tracing the words. It wasn't revenge, it was architecture. A system designed to enforce balance when arrogance tipped the scales. Monday morning brought the shift. Alex, riding high on the merger glow, started cleaning house. We need fresh blood, he told the board in a closed session. Whispers reached Ethan by lunchtime. Layoffs, restructures, and at the top of the list, the legal department. Ethan's too cautious, Alex argued. He's holding us back. The board, dazzled by Alex's charisma and the merger's success, nodded along. No one questioned why the man who'd engineered the deal was suddenly expendable. By Wednesday, the rumors solidified into reality. Ethan was called into HR for a transition discussion. He sat across from a nervous coordinator who slid over a severance package. It's generous, she said, avoiding his eyes. Ethan scanned it, standard non-compete. Hush money disguised as consulting fees. He signed without protest, his pen moving with the same precision he used for contracts. As he left, he passed Alex in the hall. Their eyes met for a split second. Alex smirked. Ethan just nodded, a ghost fading into the elevator. But the fuse was lit. That night, Alex met with his personal wealth advisor in a dimly lit steakhouse, plotting the next move. Time to consolidate the Sinclair trusts, Alex said, swirling his scotch. Shift them into cleaner vehicles, offshore if needed. Can't have the new board poking around Dad's legacy. The advisor nodded eagerly. We'll make it seamless. They didn't know about D9. No one did, except Ethan. And as Alex signed off on the transfers, the system Ethan had built began to hum to life. Quiet as a whisper, building toward the storm. The first ping came at dawn, buried in the compliance dashboard of the newly merged Vanguard Apex entity. It was innocuous, a flagged transaction alert, the kind that popped up a dozen times a day for minor discrepancies. But this one lingered, cross-referencing timestamps, signatories, and asset flows with the precision of a surgeon's blade. Alex was still asleep in his Upper East Side penthouse, sheets tangled from a late-night celebration, when the alert escalated to the senior compliance officer's inbox. Sarah Klein, a no-nonsense veteran with a law degree from Yale and zero tolerance for shortcuts, sipped her black coffee and clicked open the report, her eyebrows furrowed. What the hell is this? The transfer had initiated overnight. $500 million in Sinclair family trusts rerouted through a series of holding companies, ending in a Cayman-based entity. On paper, it looked clean family matters, separate from the merger. But the system knew better. It matched the move against the merger's back-end protocols, tripping over Appendix D-9 like a hidden wire. Termination of key architect, check. Ethan's firing logged just days prior. Undisclosed asset migration within the 30-day window, check. No cause documented for dismissal, double check. Sarah leaned back in her chair, the weight of it settling in her gut. This wasn't a glitch, it was activation. By 8 a.m., she was on a secure line with Apex's general counsel, Marcus Hale, a grizzled ex-DOJ prosecutor who spoke in clipped sentences. "D9's live," she said. Marcus didn't waste time on pleasantries. "Confirm triggers." She rattled them off, and he grunted approval. "Initiate stewardship. Notify the board discreetly." The clause kicked in seamlessly, redirecting control of the assets to a joint oversight committee. Not seizure, not theft, just temporary guardianship until resolution, which could drag on for months. Years if lawyers got creative. The money wasn't gone. It was leashed, tied to the merged company's R&D funds and innovation grants, diluting its liquidity with every passing quarter. Alex woke to a barrage of notifications. His phone vibrated off the nightstand, clattering to the marble floor. Groggy, he grabbed it, expecting congratulations or stock tips. Instead, urgent from his advisor. "Call ASAP. Balance is frozen." He bolted upright, heart pounding like he'd run a marathon in his sleep. Logging into his private portal, he stared at the screen, zeros across the board. Trusts, investments, even the liquid cash reserves, locked. "This has to be a hack," he muttered, dialing frantically. His advisor picked up on the first ring, voice trembling. "It's not a hack, Alex. It's the merger agreement. Something called D9, tied to Ethan's termination." Alex's world tilted. He paced his bedroom, the city skyline mocking him through floor-to-ceiling windows. "Fix it. Now." But the advisor stammered excuses. "It's binding. We need legal intervention." By noon, Alex was in the office, storming through the halls like a force of nature. Employees scattered, whispering behind closed doors. He burst into the boardroom where a hastily assembled team of junior lawyers huddled over laptops. "Explain," he barked, slamming his fist on the table. One of them, a young associate named Lisa, cleared her throat. "Sir, when you let Ethan go without cause, and then moved the family assets, it activated a safeguard. The funds are under Apex's provisional control now." The room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Alex's face reddened, veins bulging. "Ethan did this? That quiet little nobody." Lisa nodded, pulling up the clause. "He drafted it. It's airtight, protects against post-merger conflicts." Alex laughed, but it was hollow, edged with panic. "Get him on the phone. I want him groveling." But Ethan's line went to voicemail. Calm and professional. "Leave a message. No callbacks. No drama. Just absence." As the day dragged on, the pressure built. Alex called in favors, old college buddies at top firms, family connections in D.C. "This is extortion," he ranted into the phone. But every expert came back with the same verdict. "It's enforceable. You'd need arbitration. But Apex holds the cards." Meanwhile, Ethan was miles away, in a cozy coffee shop in Brooklyn, reading a novel under soft lighting. His phone buzzed with missed calls, but he silenced it. This wasn't about spite. It was about the work standing on its own. He'd poured his soul into that merger, only to be discarded like yesterday's news. Now, the architecture was speaking for him. The board convened that evening, shadows lengthening across the conference table. Alex sat at the head, but his usual swagger was cracked, eyes darting like a cornered animal. "We fight this," he declared. "Sue Apex. Drag Ethan into court." Murmurs rippled. An older board member, Harold, leaned forward. "Alex, this clause. It's our signature on it too. We approved the deal." The doubt crept in, slow and insidious. whispers about Alex's impulsiveness, his disregard for details. One director pulled up Ethan's resume. Years of flawless executions. Saved deals. Averted disasters. Maybe we moved too fast on the termination, someone muttered. Alex felt the shift, the room turning against him. He stormed out, retreating to his office where the merger plaque mocked him from the wall. Alone, the arrogance peeled away, revealing the fear beneath. What if this was permanent? The family legacy, properties in the Hamptons, stakes in blue-chip stocks, offshore nests, now pawns in a game he didn't understand. He poured a drink, the ice clinking like chains. Outside, the city hummed on, indifferent. Ethan had built a trap not with malice, but with foresight, knowing men like Alex always overreached. And now, the damming was breaking, the flood of consequences just beginning to rise. The alerts multiplied like whispers turning into shouts. By the second day, the compliance system had fully integrated the D9 activation, rerouting the Sinclair assets into a web of interlocked accounts under Vanguard Apex's banner. Sarah Klein's team worked methodically, documenting every step, audits, valuations, projections. This isn't punitive, she told her staff. It's protocol. But deep down, she knew the ripple effects. $500 million didn't just sit idle. It fueled projects, generated returns for Apex now, not Alex. Word leaked internally. Emails flew between departments. Sinclair trusts in limbo. D9 invoked. A mid-level analyst pieced it together and shared it in a Slack channel, sparking a firestorm of speculation. Ethan Caldwell strikes back, one message read, followed by emojis of exploding heads. The office buzzed with a mix of schadenfreude and awe. Ethan had always been the unsung hero. Now, he was legend. Alex, meanwhile, barricaded himself in meetings with crisis lawyers, barking orders like a captain on a sinking ship. Find a loophole, he demanded. But the experts shook their heads. It's self-executing. Ethan's design is brilliant. Recursive checks. No overrides. Desperation set in. Alex reached out to Ethan directly, leaving voicemails that escalated from conciliatory to threatening. We can work this out. Buddy. Come back. Consult. Name your price. Then, you think you can bury me? I'll sue you into oblivion. Ethan listened to them over breakfast, deleting each one without response. He wasn't hiding. He was walking his dog in Prospect Park, feeling the autumn leaves crunch underfoot. The merger had been his life's work, a symphony of logic and protection. Alex had treated it like a remix, and now the notes were playing out as composed. The board's patience frayed. In a tense video call, Harold confronted Alex. This isn't just your money. It's tied to our stability. Shareholder confidence is tanking. Alex deflected, blaming Ethan. He's a saboteur. But Harold's voice hardened. He warned us about asset overlaps. You ignored him. The call ended with ultimatums. Resolve it, or step aside. Alex slammed his laptop shut, the screen cracking slightly. Alone, the weight crushed him, the isolation of power without wisdom. He remembered his father's words, details build dynasties. But Alex had chased glory, not grit. By midweek, the press sniffed blood. A tip from an anonymous source, perhaps a disgruntled insider, landed on a Bloomberg reporter's desk. Vanguard CEO's family fortune locked in merger clause fiasco. The story broke online, detailing D9's intricacies without naming Ethan outright. Social media erupted. Finance Twitter threads dissecting the genius trap, memes of Alex as a clueless king toppled by a pawn. Stock prices dipped 3%, wiping out millions in market cap. Investors called, demanding answers. Alex's PR team scrambled. issuing a bland statement. Internal matter. Under review. Ethan saw the headlines on his phone while grabbing lunch at a deli. No satisfaction. Just a quiet nod. He'd anticipated this, the cascade of accountability. Back home, he fielded a call from an old colleague. You planned this. Ethan paused, the line crackling with unspoken history. I built safeguards. People choose to ignore them. The colleague chuckled. Well, it's poetic. Ethan hung up, staring out at the Brooklyn skyline. Poetic. Yes, but painful too. Years of loyalty, erased in a whim. Alex's world narrowed to damage control. He flew to D.C., meeting lobbyists to push for regulatory intervention. This clause is predatory, he argued. But they laughed it off. It's Contract Law 101. You signed it, returning empty-handed. He confronted the mirror in his private jet, lines etched deeper, eyes hollow. The arrogance that once fueled him now poisoned everything. Family calls poured in, aunts. Cousins furious about frozen inheritances. You ruined us, his sister hissed over the phone. Alex had no rebuttal. The empire he'd inherited was crumbling under his watch. In the quiet moments, doubt crept in. What if Ethan had been right all along? The cautious approach, the endless reviews, they weren't barriers. They were bulwarks. Alex flashed back to a late-night session where Ethan had patiently explained risks, only for Alex to cut him off with a joke. Now. That dismissal echoed like thunder. The build-up was relentless, each revelation damning more pressure. And as the week closed, the board scheduled an emergency vote. Alex knew what was coming: exile. Ethan's ghost loomed larger than ever, a testament to the power of unseen work. The boardroom felt like a courtroom on Judgment Day. Alex entered last, suit rumpled, tie askew, the picture of a man unraveling. Chairs scraped as everyone sat, the air heavy with anticipation. Harold cleared his throat, projecting a slide, D9 impact assessment. Graphs showed dipping stocks, frozen assets, mounting legal fees. This clause was embedded for a reason, Harold said. To prevent exactly this, reckless post-merger moves. Eyes turned to Alex. Accusatory. He tried to rally. We can negotiate with Apex. Offer concessions. But Marcus Hale appeared on screen, stone-faced. Stewardship is active. Assets are reallocating to joint ventures. Reversal requires unanimous approval, unlikely. Alex's voice cracked. This is my family's legacy. Marcus leaned in. Which you jeopardized. Per the agreement, the call ended, leaving silence. A vote was called. Alex's leadership. Hands raised against him. One by one. Effective immediately, Harold intoned. You're out. Alex left the building in a daze. Security escorting him like a criminal. Boxes of his belongings waited in the lobby. A humiliating send-off. Paparazzi swarmed outside. Flashes blinding. Headlines screamed, Sinclair ousted in $500 million clause catastrophe. He retreated to his penthouse, the opulence mocking his fall. Alone with a bottle of whiskey. Regrets flooded in, the dismissals, the shortcuts, the firing that started it all. Ethan's face haunted him. That calm nod in the hallway, now a prophecy. Ethan, meanwhile, received an email from the board. Consulting opportunity. Navigate D9 resolution. He considered it over coffee. The city awakening below. Not for money, but for closure. He replied, available under standard terms. No gloating. Just professionalism. The board breathed relief. Ethan's expertise was their lifeline. As weeks turned to months, the fallout rippled. Alex fought in court, but judges upheld the clause. Ironclad, one ruled. The assets morphed, invested in Apex's green energy funds, generating returns for strangers. Alex sold properties to stay afloat, his lifestyle crumbling. Family ties frayed, blame echoed in every conversation. He took a low-profile job at a boutique firm, a shadow of his former self, learning humility the hard way. Vanguard Apex thrived under new leadership, Ethan's frameworks ensuring stability. He consulted sparingly, his reputation soaring, headhunters called. But he chose selective projects, finding peace and balance. The story became Wall Street lore, the quiet architect who felled a titan with ink. Years later, the echo lingered. Alex sat in a modest cafe, scrolling news on his phone. A headline caught his eye: Vanguard Apex hits record highs. Credits robust legal foundations. Buried in the article, praise for Ethan Caldwell, now a sought-after advisor. Alex set down his cup, a bitter smile forming. He'd rebuilt somewhat a smaller firm, wiser decisions, but the scar remained. What if he'd listened? The question haunted him. A moral quandary. Was power worth the blindness it bred? Ethan, walking through Manhattan, paused at Vanguard's old building. No bitterness, just reflection. His work had endured, proving that true strength lay in subtlety.
Notre spectacle.
But at what cost? The human toll, the shattered egos, fractured families, left him pondering. Did protection justify the pain? In the end, the clause wasn't just law, it was a mirror, forcing confrontation with one's flaws. For Alex, a lesson in humility. For Ethan, a reminder of isolation's price. And for the world, a lingering question in the pursuit of justice. How far is too far? The city moved on, but the story whispered on. A cautionary tale in the shadows of skyscrapers.